The lock turns before you hear the footsteps. That is the first wrong thing. Locks do not turn themselves. Someone has been standing outside your door long enough to choose the moment, and the moment is now. Before dawn, before your women have laced your bodice, before you are even a queen dressed as a queen. Only a woman in a shift. Hair undone. Cold stone biting through the soles of your bare feet. You count the men in the doorway. 4. You have never needed to count men before. Torchlight moves across the wall in long orange smears, swallowing the corners of the room you have slept in for years and somehow making it strange to you, as if the walls themselves have turned. Somewhere behind you, your lady-in-waiting has stopped breathing, not gasped, stopped. The particular silence of someone deciding not to be noticed, not to exist for the next few minutes, because existing might mean being asked a question she cannot survive answering. The captain does not look at your face. That is how you know. Men who bring good news look at your face. Men who bring the other kind find somewhere else to put their eyes, your hands, the floor, the small crucifix at your throat, anywhere that is not the moment your world ends. "Madam," he says, "you will come with us." You ask why. Your voice does not shake, which surprises you, because everything else has already started shaking. Your hands, your knees, the small space behind your ribs where your heart now sits too high, beating too fast, as though it already knows something your mind has not caught up to yet. He does not answer. You will remember, later, that the silence was its own kind of answer. That somewhere in another room, men have already spoken the sentence your life is about to become, and you are only now walking into it, barefoot, unprepared, still half asleep in a world that no longer exists. You were not born to fear locked doors. You were born to a name that mattered, a family with land, or blood, or both, the kind of family whose daughters are not raised to be loved but to be useful. Long before you understood what marriage meant, you understood that your body was a contract waiting to be signed. A peace treaty. An alliance sealed not with ink, but with a wedding night. You learned to dance before you learned to read properly. You learned the correct depth of a curtsy for a duke, and a different depth for a cardinal, and a different depth still for the king himself. Degrees of bowing so precise that a single inch wrong could be read as insult, or, worse, as ambition. You learned, long before your wedding day, that a woman's virtue was never something she owned. It was something held by everyone around her, her father, her husband, the priest who heard her sins on her knees, the ladies who dressed her each morning and could, if questioned sharply enough by the right man, describe in detail exactly what they believed they saw. When you married, you did not choose love. You chose survival shaped to look like love, because in your world, that was the only shape survival ever came in. You smiled at a man you barely knew, in a cathedral full of strangers who already had opinions about your hips, your hands, your ability to give the crown an air. For a time, and you will remember this time fondly, almost guiltily, later, it was nearly enough. A crown is heavy, but it is also a kind of armor. People bow lower to you than they bow to anyone else in the room. People fear you, just slightly, and that fear feels, for a while, like safety. You learn the particular music of a royal court, who smiled at you and meant it, who smiled at you while already composing the letter that would one day help end you. You did not know, in those early years, that the music had already begun changing key, that somewhere beneath the dancing, men were counting how long you had been queen, how many sons you had given, how useful you still were to the alliances that put you on that throne in the first place. Your days are not your own. They never were, but you only truly feel the weight of it now, in the smallness of everything you are permitted. You wake already half-dressed by hands that are not your own. Women you did not choose handle your body before your eyes are fully open, lacing, pinning, arranging you into the exact shape a queen is required to take that day. You eat what is brought to you, at the hour it is brought. You walk where you are walked, through gardens designed for other people to watch you walk through them. Every conversation you have takes place in a room with at least one other person present, because a queen alone with any man, for any reason, however innocent, is a sentence that someone else could finish for you. You learn to measure your own laughter the way a merchant measures grain. Too loud, and it becomes unseemly familiarity, whispered behind a fan before the night is over. Too quiet, and it becomes guilt, proof that something weighs on your conscience. There is no correct amount of laughter for a woman who is watched by people paid, directly or indirectly, to find something wrong with her. You learn which courtiers are kind to you because they like you, and which are kind to you only because kindness is currently safe to extend in your direction. You learn, slowly and painfully, that the second kind disappears first the moment the wind changes, and the wind in a royal court always changes. There are small punishments built into the architecture of your life, so constant you stop noticing them as punishments at all. You cannot ride out alone. You cannot choose your own physician. A letter you write to your own sister is read by someone else's eyes before it ever leaves the palace walls. Even your grief, when your father dies, is permitted only in measured amounts, in the correct rooms, witnessed by the correct people. Because a queen who weeps too freely is a queen who might be hiding something behind the tears. At night, you pray, not always for rescue, because rescue feels like a luxury you have stopped imagining. Sometimes you only pray for sleep that does not replay the day's small humiliations. The cousin of the king who held your gaze a half-second too long across the supper table, the whisper you were not meant to overhear, the way the king's eyes have begun, lately, to search your face for something he has already half decided is hiding there. You begin keeping your hands still in your lap, even when you want to wring them. You begin choosing your words the way a woman crosses thin ice, slowly, testing each one before placing your full weight on it. You begin, without ever quite naming it to yourself, the long and exhausting work of simply surviving your own life. And beneath all of it, quietly, a single fear grows roots. That none of this care will matter. That obedience has never once protected a queen whose usefulness has run out. The accusation, when it finally takes shape, is almost a relief, the way pain can sometimes feel like relief after the unbearable waiting for pain to arrive. You are given a name. A man you have spoken to perhaps a dozen times in your life, always in company, always within sight of a dozen other witnesses, a musician, a courtier, someone whose presence in your life was never more than the ordinary furniture of court. You are told what he is alleged to have done with you, in rooms you can specifically recall never being alone in. None of that matters now. The accusation does not need to be true. It only needs to be useful to someone with more power than you, someone who wants what your absence would give them: a new wife, a new alliance, a quieter court, a problem, finally, solved. They question your women, one by one, in rooms you are not permitted to enter. One of them, young, frightened, her own life suddenly balanced on the same scale as yours, is pressed until she recalls something. A glance, a private smile, a moment of laughter behind a half-closed door that was, in truth, about nothing at all, a joke about a torn sleeve or a clumsy dance step. Under enough pressure, it is reshaped into something it never was. You will never know exactly what she said. You will only feel its effects, like weather moving in from a direction you cannot see. You are given a chance to speak. You take it. You explain, calmly, precisely, every hour of every day they have asked you about, where you were, who stood beside you, what was said, and by whom. You watch the men listening across the table, and you understand, with a coldness that settles permanently into your bones, that they are not listening to discover the truth. The truth was decided before you were ever brought into this room. They are listening only to see whether you will perform guilt or perform innocence, because either performance can be written down afterward as exactly what they require it to say. In that room, you are offered a choice dressed up as mercy: confess, and perhaps spare the people you love from being dragged in after you, named as accomplices to a crime that never occurred, or refuse, and watch the truth be taken from your hands regardless, rewritten by men who were never present in the rooms where, they claim, everything happened. You choose the truth. You hold it the way you might hold something burning, because it is yours. And because surrendering it feels like surrendering the last thing that still belongs to you. You do not know, yet, whether truth was ever going to be enough to save you. Somewhere beneath your fear, you already suspect the answer. They take your rings first. A small thing. It should not matter more than it does, but the weight leaving your finger feels like the first piece of you being quietly returned to a world that only ever lent it to you. You are not permitted to write to your children. You are permitted a confessor, and you spend long hours with him, not confessing since you did not commit, but simply being heard, for once, by someone who is not waiting to use your words as evidence. Outside your window, the court continues. You can hear it faintly through the stone, music, footsteps, laughter that has nothing to do with you anymore. It is a strange and terrible thing, learning how replaceable a queen truly is. How quickly the music starts again once the doors close behind you. In the last quiet hours, you do not think of the accusation, or even of the men who built it, brick by careful brick, out of nothing. You think of small things instead. The smell of bread in the palace kitchens on a cold winter morning. A daughter's hand, small and warm, inside yours. The particular blue of a sky you noticed once, years ago, from a window you can no longer return to. A sky you never thought to remember properly, because you assumed, foolishly, that there would always be more skies left to look at. You wonder whether anyone, years from now, will know your true name, or only the lie that has been stitched permanently to it. You wonder whether it would have mattered, in the end, whatever you had actually done, whether any version of your obedience could have changed the date already written somewhere, in someone else's hand, long before you ever understood you were living inside it. The door, when it opens this time, does not lock behind you. And somewhere, in a room you will never see, the music has already started again.